Starmer, in my view, has got no morality whatever.
As the Labour Party tries to regain public confidence, Keir Starmer has been crushed by historian David Starkey on live television. But what could provoke Starkey, one of the UK's most outspoken voices, to unleash such scathing criticism of Starmer? Let's delve into Starkey's brutally honest perspective on the turmoil within the Labour Party. And remember to like and subscribe to stay updated with our analyses.
He lied to the Labour Party, he lied to his MPs, he lied to the nation, and he continues to lie. He finds it difficult opening his mouth without uttering a lie.
Here, you're about to hear Starkey's full-on takedown of Starmer. Starkey states unequivocally that Starmer utterly lacks integrity, a claim that can't be disputed. He describes him as a man devoid of basic moral values, whose career has been one long string of lies. Starmer has deceived not only the Labour Party, but MPs and the entire British public. Every word he speaks feels like another lie, a trait that has seemingly become part of who he is. To us, this truth is glaringly obvious. Everyone around him sees it, except for those too blind or ignorant to notice. His corruption is plain to see in his actions. Yet, those who fail to see it are hardly any better. Here's an important point to consider. Within this power structure, much like the Soviet era, we find covert centres of influence. There are organisations like the KGB, secret intelligence agencies, and figures like Putin who possess true intellect and vision. But overwhelmingly, this system is ineffective, sluggish, and incompetent. Starmer stands as a perfect example of this system's weakness and paralysis. This impression only grows when examining Starmer's leadership. He's like a king on a throne with no idea how to steer the nation forward. He may have learned basic subjects like maths or music without ever facing real tests or challenges. This system only underscores its own mediocrity, lacking wisdom and creativity. This sluggishness has caused everything to stagnate, leaving progress at a standstill. So, to face such a system, what we need is intelligence and shrewdness. We need the wit to mock, to satirise, and to laugh at these absurd rules. That's why I'm eagerly anticipating the face-off between Kemi Badenoch and Starmer in Parliament. She's a promising contender, not only smart, but with a uniquely sharp sense of humour. Though there are mixed feelings on this, I'd like to share a brief thought on the Conservative leadership race before diving deeper. Kemi is the one who dares to challenge outdated norms and defy long-standing conventions. Not only that, she brings a sharp wit rarely seen in leaders today. Most leaders lack the ability to laugh at themselves, unable to see the humour in situations, instead clinging rigidly to inflexible viewpoints. It's striking how many of today's so-called alternative comedians lean towards extreme left-wing ideals, which blinds them to reason and balance. Mashing up Margaret Thatcher's name with crass words or mocking Trump merely exposes their lack of intellectual maturity. They may think these jokes are clever, but in reality, they're nothing but juvenile and simplistic. Nonetheless, we still have to play this political game, breaking away from outdated patterns to prove our wit and ability to challenge the system from within. So, when we talk about corruption, does anyone actually understand what it really means? What is corruption? Are we referring to the government, the judicial system, or perhaps the collusion between the government and mainstream media, those who conveniently avoid questioning Starmer or Yvette Cooper on what they knew and when they knew it? Corruption is a word with many interpretations, making satire and criticism entirely fair. Indeed, this government can be seen as corrupt in the most fundamental sense, the practice of accepting privileges, unofficial gifts and preferential treatment in a way that resembles a life of luxury and self-interest. In fact, this culture of corruption has long been embedded in the Labour Party, with figures like Sir Ali serving as living proof of this reality. In the old days, when Private Eye still had its sharp wit and humour, and before Ian came onto the scene, Ali's fate was inextricably linked with the left, like a part of the furniture. Back then, Ali had a rather notable nickname in Private Eye, Wahid. He was always referred to as Lord Wahid Boy or Lord Wide Boy, as he was quite the archetype of a wide boy, a bit of a schemer, always on the make. Yet, for all that lofty title, Ali was, in truth, a genuinely decent chap. Once upon a time, he even showed interest in investing in me. But then his team realised there was simply no profit to be had. So, they decided to bow out. No surprises there. Still, instead of outright refusal, Ali put on a grand display of generosity, offering me his casual goodwill. But of course, the pretense couldn't go unnoticed for long. Whenever tourists were around, he would pull on a stern face as if to give an air of trustworthiness and respectability. Now, Starmer is a different kettle of fish entirely. The thing with Starmer is that he's always seen as a man of morals, standing firm and upright. But if you look closely, Starmer hardly has a shred of genuine ethics. He doesn't stand for anything you'd respect. His entire career has been one endless string of lies. He's deceived the Labour Party, misled his MPs, duped the whole public, and sadly, he continues to uphold these lies. Honestly, it seems Starmer can barely open his mouth without lying. It's become plain as day to many, but perhaps from Starmer's perspective, he sees it differently. After all, he's a lawyer, and for a lawyer, there's always another angle, another interpretation only the legal minds can fathom. Lawyers, as it happens, are masters at hunting down the fine print that no one else really cares about, like the small print at the bottom of a mobile phone contract. It's that kind of stuff people skip over because, honestly, who can be bothered? And Starmer, as a professional lawyer, is forever looking for ways to justify himself. He'll say, "Oh, didn't I follow all the rules?" But even then, there's no guarantee he's done things right. Yet Starmer insists everything's just fine because he says it is. When he's facing pressure and has to respond, rather than taking a straight course, Starmer does something many would find astonishing. He goes back to those old receipts, tallying up what he might say or do to appease people. "We've changed the rules today," he says. "So from now on, everything I receive, I'll pay back." And then, with a flourish, he digs into his pocket and repays £6,000 from a sum running into the tens of thousands that really ought to be paid back. The funny part is, Starmer genuinely believes he's cleaned up the mess, as though he's wiped the slate clean. Every action he takes is framed as if it's some sort of reasonable explanation. But there's a distinctly strange, contradictory feel to the whole process. What Starmer thinks he's doing is following the rules, but in reality, these are simply rules he's made up and altered as he pleases. And if anyone thinks his actions are acceptable, as if there's no wrongdoing in them, then there's not much else to say. In today's context, a notable point is how the regulations have been twisted to exclude people like us, and even those who once enjoyed protection are no longer safeguarded. It's truly a shame. The structures that we've kept open for centuries are simply no longer there. Granted, secret websites and hidden dealings still exist, but fundamentally, the government has to operate out in the open. And crucially, in this system, things that everyone fears being exposed can indeed be brought into the light. That's the privilege of Parliament. However, this privilege was denied by the Speaker precisely when MPs should have been protected, at least from the usual laws applied to everyone else. From this, you can see it's time to sever all ties. This also explains why before Blair, Parliament stood above even the Supreme Court. Back then, Parliament was the ultimate authority. Historically, Parliament was the one place where everyone, regardless of power, could be held accountable. But that's now been deliberately dismantled piece by piece. What do people think about the issues we have discussed in today's video? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on the latest political developments in the UK. Thank you all, and see you in the next videos.